Hi, everybody. I am Anupriya Ramraj with HP Public Cloud Operations, and I'll be presenting OpenStack operations with Socorro, piecing the zigzag pieces together in a data center. And the contributors to this presentation are listed here. The agenda, a brief intro on Socorro, followed by the key use cases we're targeting with this system, including data reconciliation, troubleshooting, and capacity planning. Socorro. Socorro is an extract, transform, load, ETL database implementation developed by HP, optimized for OpenStack, essentially to build a configuration management database. Again, I would have to say take a fifth here to say that ITIL has its own definition of a CMDB, but in this case, we've developed this basically to target our own use cases, which we'll be talking about shortly. Among others, this implementation collects data from several providers, including your virtualization, your OpenStack services, Swift, Ironic, Nova, Keystone, and your different infrastructure services like your provisioner, your configuration management, your network systems. And this system of providers is extensible, so more can be added. Once the data is collected, it's made available using APIs, and then there's Horizon visualization of the data as well. This is a quick architectural overview of Socorro. Basically, as described, there are the target systems that you're collecting from, whether it's an OpenStack service or an infrastructure service, and then the data gets into the messaging bus, and it's input by the collector into a database. Once it's in the Socorro database, it's accessible via the APIs, it's accessible via the client or the Horizon panels. Users can get to this aggregated data, again, in several ways, based on the intended usage. If there are, in our data center, there have been other consumers that have developed their own tools based of Socorro, and so they get to the data using the API or the client, and while others rely on it, primarily get to the data using the Horizon panels. Data reconciliation, and why is that an important use case? When you have a large data center and it's running a public cloud, and there's a separation of concerns, and there's several teams that are involved. There's a data center operations team, there is the network engineers, there's the system engineers, and they all have their own systems, and they all have different views of how the infrastructure looks like and how the services look like. So data reconciliation is really, really important because with this, we're able to bring together the data from the different systems, put it together in Socorro, spot the inconsistencies, and then enable the correction of the data so that we have 100% confidence in our data that all the systems are aligned. And I will have to say this is a continuous process because discrepancies do creep up. You have new hardware coming in, you have systems getting decommissioned, and so it's a constant process to make sure that all the systems are aligned. I'm going on to my next use case, troubleshooting. With troubleshooting, with Socorro, having data from these multiple providers and having a single way to query and get to that data is really, really powerful. For example, if you have a network switch going down and you wanted to figure out what are the service nodes that are affected by the switch going down, then you could do a single query on Socorro using its Horizon panels and basically get at this information. Here I'm showing a potential layout of a data center and how the tiles are laid out, and with the Socorro UI, you could basically click on any one tile, get to the rack on the tile, see the infrastructure, the nodes, the network switches that are on that particular rack, and then get to any of the details of that particular node, including what was provisioned on it, what did the configuration management due to that node. In our case, we use Chef for the configuration management. And what network data do we have about the node, et cetera, et cetera. We've got this process nailed to the extent that somebody in data center can go and scan a particular rack or a particular node, and then they're able to pull up all these details out of Socorro. So if a DC ops tech is in the data center and standing before rows of nodes, and they have to figure out which one is carrying a customer load and not carrying a customer load, this can be extremely useful there. The queries, again, you can natively use the APIs to do the queries, or there's a functionality developed by us using Horizon panels to do the queries as well. And here you see when you do a query, for example, if I was doing the query I mentioned before, listing all the nodes that were affected with the switch going down, I would then be able to click on each node and get at all the details that are on the right dialog in there. Socorro is powerful because it not only gives you the infrastructure details, it also gives you the customer load, what are the OpenStack specific workload that's being carried by a particular node. In this case, it's a Nova node, and in addition to showing all the deployer information, it's also showing the VMs on the node. And this is powerful, the relationship between the virtual and the physical. On to my next use case, which is capacity planning. With the capacity planning in Socorro, we have interactive dynamic reports which allow you to do capacity planning and allocation tracking. An example would be if you wanted to do a quick query and figure out the number of Nova nodes, these are the physical nodes, the number of Nova nodes that you have in production versus test in each data center, you could do that pretty easily with the Socorro interface. Or if you wanted, we also do support aggregated data export in CSV, JSON, and a couple other forms. So if you wanted a listing of all IP addresses in use across your services, then you could do a simple query and then get that data exported out of the system. Here are an example of a few of the capacity reports that are possible. The first one in there is from a provisioner, and it basically shows the allocation of nodes based on production versus test and who the owners are. The next is a report from our deployer, in this case, Chef. So it's able to, with this report, we're able to show, for example, when particular sets of nodes were updated. So how many nodes were updated 4 weeks ago versus how many were updated 8 weeks ago. And then the third one on the list is a Nova report, where we're able to say how many VMs are running on a node, how many nodes have more than 10 VMs, example, and what is the total number of hosts that are carrying VMs, etc. So all that can be graphically represented in there. And in conclusion, Socorro, our implementation to solve the use cases, can be used to solve the use cases, several use cases, including troubleshooting, capacity planning, and data reconciliation, and making sure all your systems in your data center are in sync. And by combining the physical and the logical views of the data, including the data from the OpenStack services itself, including customer workloads carried by the physical infrastructure, it does enable the right decisions to be made both on the data center floor and in the NOC and in operations. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Anupriya Ramraj with HP Cloud Operations. Thank you.